Right, sorry about that, guys. There was a lot of messing around there. We are good to go now. So, we are here in Belgium for round 1. We've got 20 minutes of qualifying, and then we are going to go into the race. I just need to do a quick sound check, make sure that everything sounds okay, so if you can just bear with me a second. Does that sound better? That sounds better, I think. Let me know if the audio's too loud, too quiet. Just let me know, guys. Because I won't know. I don't know why the overlays aren't working today. The overlays are not working. And I'm not sure why. Bear with me, guys. I do apologise. Let me jump on board with somebody, actually. So we can just bring the first camera up. That is Mato Gubro in the Mercedes car. How are we all doing? And I'm just going to try and get the overlay. For some reason, the overlay is not working. It's just not showing now. I don't know why. Strange. I'll try again soon. No way, should be working. Okie dokie, so we'll just give up at that one. So we'll bring up, because it's not going to have the thing up. So as you can see, the drivers are out on the mediums here in qualifying at the moment. Ryan Clemenson is also on a lap. Remember, we've got hypercars and GT3 cars. I don't think Thomas Stanek, I think he's withdrew it right at the last minute. Dave Walker's got a problem with his wheel. So we have a reduced grid of hypercars here today, but we do have quite a few GT3 cars. Alexander Midson in the hypercar is also on track. We've got Lucas Rachinski in on the track as well. So Ryan Clemenson is also on a lap, and he's got a little bit of traffic just in front of him there. So Ryan Clemenson coming out of the bus stop chicane and down towards the checkered flag, and the hypercar will go and start his lap. Alexander Midson has already done a 55.3 through sector 2. He's in a fresh looking car here today as he comes around Blanchimont and down towards the bus stop chicane. And look how beautiful that hypercar looks, hugging the apex to the right, to the left, back onto the throttle. Running a little bit wide, but that won't matter as Alexander Midson comes to the line, and it's a 2:03.851. We've got a few of the GT3 cars, one of them being Marek Odolos in the Ferrari, just coming through sector 2, and you can see there's a car behind him as well. These are going racing in these GT3 cars, and there's a driver getting a sneaky little slipstream behind there as well. So cheeky from the driver behind as we go down in towards the final two corners, and he takes that really cautiously with a really nice livery though as he comes down towards the line. And Marek Odlas goes fastest of the GT3 cars. You've got Rok Stoshnek and Macau Hodge, who raced last week, going up to P2, and Stephen Martin comes through to take the fastest lap in the GT3 cars, and Nicholas Duncan right on his tail in that Lexus goes second of the GT3s, still behind the hypercars. Then you've got Jonathan Curran. Remember, Thomas Stanek pulled out at the very last minute. You've got a few of the drivers coming through as we come in towards the bus stop chicane. That's Ivan Stefanov coming down towards the checkered flag, and Ivan Stefanov puts it. I don't actually know where Ivan Stefanov's just put it there. It was a bit difficult to see where he went to. Oh, P7, Marek Odlas in P6. Robert Rockford in that pink Porsche. And then Matthew Wells also in that McLaren. He is currently P8. Ryan Clemenson did come through in the hypercar, navigating a lot of traffic using that F7R livery today. Alexander Midson might be going for another one. Lucas Rajinski. These had a fantastic battle last week. They really did. It was amazing to watch. Thomas Buter also in the hypercar goes P4. Jonathan Curran has gone fastest of the GT3 cars. And the Porsche driver with that MSC livery has gone fastest by half a second to Stephen Martin in P2. And Nicholas Duncan in that Lexus, Macau Hodge in the Mustang. Matthew Hells coming around the left-hander at Pujon. Such a great view of the drivers when they come through there. And he is 1.3 seconds up at the moment is Matthew Wells. We're right on board with him. The McLaren, and that is Funky. Dennis Funky goes fastest by 3.5 seconds to Macau Hodge. They are not messing around, them two Lexus drivers. Nicholas Duncan comes up to P2. The Lexus, they are still, the closest driver is 3 seconds behind Dennis Funky. Wow. And we were on board with Matthew Wells. He was improving, his 1.6 up. That would put him just in front of Marek Odlas, but not in front of Stephen Martin. He's going to have to find a little bit more, and that's exactly what he's doing. Into the bus stop chicane, out of the final corner, 11 minutes of this qualifying session remaining. Here comes Matthew Wells to the line in the McLaren, and he will take P7, P4, wow, P4 in the GT3s. That is very, very good. And this is not showing the GT3s as well. I'm not sure why that is, so I do apologise. Should be mixed. So we can see Alexander Midson currently fastest in the hypercars. Ryan Clemenson in P2, and then Lucas Rajinski in P3, Thomas Buter in P4. And then you've got Dennis Funky, 1.3 quicker than Bob Stobby in that GT3. Daryl Bean is here as well. He's on his way out of the pit lane. Ivan Stefanov trying to find some sort of improvement. We've got quite a few of the GT3 cars on track here today. So I will try and get the overlays on when they do start to work. I am continuously trying, but it's still not working at the moment. I'm not sure why it's not working. Oh, do I need to put it on? No, it's just, it isn't actually working there. Oh, it might do. Wait a minute. Oh, it looked like it was going to, though. So, a little bit of a battle between the two Porsche drivers. This is Ivan Stefanov. Here comes Daryl Beam in the Lexus. As they come through. I don't think Daryl Beam was too happy about that. Daniel Krupa. Oh, who's that into the wall? And he comes back on track, and the Mustang just avoiding a huge collision at the top of a Rouge. That was very close. Daniel Krupa lost the back end, and that nearly ended in disaster there. Wow, that was really good driving from the Mustang to avoid that. So Macau Hotch in the other Mustang. You've got the GT3 drivers as well. Alexander Midson. He is 0.092 in front of Ryan Clemenson. Less than a tenth of a second separate the two hypercars. This is how close it is here at Formula 7 Racing for this round 3 event here in Spa-Francorchamps. So can Ryan Clemenson get any sort of improvement? He's finding it. He's in the green as he gets a little bit of slipstream from that Lexus behind. And he'll take it as well as we go down towards Les Combs. As Lucas Radzinski is back out. Thomas Buter in that Porsche hypercar. It's such a nice hypercar that, and that Lexus just in the way, and he will just navigate under the inside as we go in towards Brussels at turn 10. Dennis Funke is into the pit lane. Rok Stojnek is in P2, 1.3 behind Dennis Funke. Bob Stobby is into P3 with the hypercars. Matthew Wells is currently down. Stephen Martin, just as he comes up a Rouge with that Brazil livery on that M4, comes down the Kemmel straight. And he is around a tenth of a second down on his lap time at the moment. So Stephen Martin is losing more time. Jonathan Curran into the pit lane. Nicholas Duncan is half a second up as he comes around the curve of Paul Frere. Is this going to be the improvement that Nicholas Duncan has been waiting for? 6.5 minutes to go. 19 drivers on track, 4 of them hypercars. We were expecting quite a few more today. The grid is starting to get into a decent shape though. The only thing is that's really annoying with SimGrid is that people will sign up and then take a space of somebody else, but then not show up, so it takes a vacant seat away from somebody else. We had drivers wanting to race and people can't sign up after the race starts, which is annoying. So Matthew Duncan did improve. He went up to P4. Matthew Wells, Lucas Radzinski, Ryan Clemenson is currently now on pole position by 0.8 of a second with 5 minutes remaining. Alexander Midson is not improving as that Mercedes just drives onto the gravel to get out of the way of the hypercar. He didn't need to do it, but he did. Lucas Radzinski is just on his way back out. Thomas Buter coming through turn 10. He has that Porsche in front of him that cost him quite a bit of time there. Dennis Funke still in the pit lane. Bob Stobby, Rok Stojnek, Nicholas Duncan, Matthew Wells, Stephen Martin in the pit lane as well. Jonathan Curran not on a lap. Macau Hodge is starting another lap. He's already lost 2.5 temps just coming out of the source. Daryl Bean is currently 7 temps up as he comes down the Kemmel straight. That's a lot to gain just through a couple of the first corners. Robert Rockford in the Porsche. Marek Odolos and Tim Schaap in that white AMG. Mateo Gubro in the black AMG. And then you've got Daniel Krupa in the Ferrari coming around Buchon. Ivan Stefanov in the pit lane. Thomas Stanek in the pits in the hypercar. And then Callum Amkrutz. And then Paulus Way. Fukao Faru. We've got a lot of drivers that have raced with us previously. Dan Quinn, Marcus Lillibet, but not showing up today. Reese Dye as well. So Alexander Midton needs to improve if he wants to take away this pole position off Ryan Clemenson. Now is the time to do it. The number 2 of Bob Stobby just coming down in towards the bus stop chicane, but he's not on a flying lap at the moment. Rock Stojnek and Nicholas Duncan still in the pit lane. Alexander Midton is not getting into the green like he would have hoped for, and it was a little bit shaky through there. I think he's backed out. Yeah, he has. So Alexander Midton is backed out. I tell you who's not. Lucas Rajinski in the other hypercar. He's currently 2.1 behind pole position. Back onto the throttle as he really does try through there. Thank you so much for the follow. I'm just trying to get the overlay to work. So Lucas Rajinski coming around the double right-hander into Curva Paul Frere. And then it's just full throttle now. It was not a good sector 2 from Lucas Rajinski. What about Thomas Buter? He's got to navigate a lot of traffic with 2.5 minutes to go. Dennis Funky still in the pit lane. What about Bob Stobbitt? He's nearly 4 temps down on his lap time. He's already going into Buchon. Rock Stojnek into the pit lane. Daryl Bean is slightly up in that blue Lexus with the Moser racing on the side. Matthew Wells is half a second up as he heads in towards Blanchimont. Can Matthew Wells improve even more? Dennis Funky is way clear of the grid at the moment. Is this going to be enough from Matthew Wells into the bus stop chicane? It will put him in front of Nicholas Duncan. Down to the checkered flag. He loses a little bit of time on the exit. Gets to the line. He does go in front of Nicholas Duncan, who is still in the pit lane. Jonathan Curran comes to the checkered flag and goes in front of Stephen Martin in that MSC-inspired gold livery. Stephen Martin, Macau Hodge, Robert Rockford in that pink Porsche. Coming up a Rouge, takes a huge chunk of the apex. That would have cost him time. He backs out, does Robert Rockford. Marek Odolos is still in the pit lane. Tim Schaap is on his way out. Mato Gubro, Daniel Krupa in the other Ferrari out of the bus stop chicane to go again. Ivan Stefanov, he's got to hurry up now. Thomas Stanek in the pit lane. Ryan Clemenson is still on pole position. Here comes Alexander Midton. He's not going to improve again. Lucas Rajinski is into the pit lane. Here comes Thomas Buter to the top of a Rouge and down the Kemmel straight. A little bit of traffic now hindering Thomas Buter as he comes down that straight. And this is traffic he's going to have to navigate in towards Les Combs, and that is a Ford Mustang in front of him with them beaming 6 narrow headlights, and there's nothing he can do. The Mustang is also on a lap, and the GT3 is hindering the hypercar, and Thomas Buter will lose a lot of time, but so will the Mustang. So Daryl Bean in the Lexus, Matthew Wells, the number 2 of Bob Stobby, who got held up. He's 3 temps down. He's currently in P2. That looks like Dennis Funky will be safe. Jonathan Curran just touching the gravel with that left wheel, but keeps hold of it. Just dwindling into the red. Here comes Matthew Wells. He is slightly down as we head in towards Blanchemont. And we've still got Alexander Midton on another run. So is Thomas Buter, but he's 5 temps down on his lap time. So Matthew Wells will be first to the checkered flag. Goes really deep. And that might be it. Matthew Wells is not going to improve here in Spa-Francorchamps. To the checkered flag we go. Matthew Wells stays P5. Here comes Thomas Buter. He is tinkering in the green. That is good through the bus stop chicane. It's not going to be enough to upgrade his position, but Thomas Buter to the line stays P4. Then comes Bob Stobby in that Mustang, who got hindered by the hypercar. Then we've got Daniel Krupa coming through Blanchemont. He's 4 seconds up on his lap time. He's finally putting something good together, stringing it along through the bus stop chicane. He's going to improve his track position from 18th on the grid. Down to the line we go. Daniel Krupa in the Ferrari. And he will go P10. Then the number 4 car of Daryl Bean. And Daryl Bean, with that cheeky little sticker on the bumper, is into the barrier. So Daryl Bean giving it too many beans and into the wall. And that is it. It is Ryan Clementon that will take pole position. And Dennis Funky way ahead of his competition. F1 Lime, I'm Matthew Wells, it's my debut. Oh, welcome in, mate. What's going on, NBL3? No overlays. Ryan, they're not working. I'm trying to get them to work. I've tried refreshing them and everything. I don't know why they're not working. I have no idea. Your connection.
Teams and drivers go to the grid for a race start.
Refresh this page. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this, but it is not working, and I don't know why. What if I open the page on here? Will that work? Yeah, local host. It just will not come up, and I don't know why. Copy and paste into Chrome. Yeah, it works every time with this, but I've not even got Chrome. Yeah, I won't mess around with that. It usually just works, to be honest. I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
Formation lab has started.
Maybe I need to Le Mans overlay. Yeah, I'm not sure, mate. Oh, that's Ryan Clemenson starting from the pit lane. There's a lot of drivers starting from the pit lane. So, not sure what happened there. So, here we go. This is it. So, Ryan Clemenson. Look at that as the engines roar from the pit lane. Alexander Midson will get us underway here for round 3 in Belgium for Le Mans Ultimate. Alexander Midson, Lucas Rajinski will go down the inside of La Source. He breaks early. Thomas Buter is there. Here comes Dennis Funky as he squabbles with Bob Stobby, but Daryl Bean is through on Rock Stojnek, and the Lexus is into P3. Rock Stojnek is demoted into P4. Here comes Matthew Wells. He's got a front row seat as all of these GT3 cars come through. Upper Rouge and the Dutchman of Jonathan Curran is here, and that was a bad exit from Rock Stojnek. And through goes the McLaren, and here comes the Porsche as well of Jonathan Curran. He's slipstreaming that McLaren all the way down into Osles comes. What about Bob Stobby up the inside of Dennis Funky? They touch and onto the gravel, and through goes Daryl Bean and into the lead of the GT3 cars. Daryl Bean picking up the pieces. Alex Midton is leading of the hypercars. Lucas Rajinski has a drive-through time penalty. I will remove that. Who is that? Thomas Rajinski. I'm trying to find where he is. I can't find it. Oh, Lucas Rajinski, sorry. We have removed Lucas Rajinski's drive-through time penalty. Some of the drivers are on wets. Remember, we are expecting rain. Lucas Rajinski can't get through at the moment. Here comes Dennis Funky and Daryl Bean. And look at Ryan Clemenson. He is stuck right in the middle of these GT3 cars. He can't find a way through. Daryl Bean is rounding into the wall. Coming around curb pole through air. And that is race over for Daryl Bean. He's got a long, long way back now. Wow. Daniel Krupa is also going to drive through. Let's take that off. So, around the outside here comes Nicholas Duncan on Stephen Martin, the Lexus and the M4. And a lot of the drivers already on the wet compounds, and that is a couple of drivers into the pits. Is that Jonathan Curran as well on the mediums? It is. So is he pitting already to go onto the wets? That is a really early pit stop for some of these guys. Tim Schaap is into the pit lane. So is Daryl Bean, Macau Hodge. There is Robert Rockford. And a lot of the drivers already into the pits. So here comes Matthew Wells. Dennis Funky is back where he started. Alexander Midton has been overtaken by Lucas Rajinski. The hypercar runs wide, coming through through the curb with no name, and then down in towards Puhon we go. Alexander Midton got the better exit. This is going to be good racing, and here he comes down the inside, and I tell you what, the track already looks wet. Look how close these two are. Here comes Alexander Midton to retake the lead, and Lucas Rajinski can do nothing about that one as the rain batters that windscreen. It is treacherous conditions out here, typical for Spa Francorchamps. Thomas Buter is still there, just getting all that mist right in the face. Rock Stojnek is around a second behind Matthew Wells now. A lot of the drivers started on wet. Stephen Martin, Dennis Funky must have made a mistake. He's down to P4. Maddock, Odelos, Nicholas Duncan, Matau Kubro, Macau Hodge. And we'll continue to try and get these overlays working. I have no idea why they're not working. That is so annoying. So, Ryan on board with Macau Hots, Daryl Bean on them wet tyres now, and Rock Stojnek is trying to close that gap to Matthew Wells. All the drivers on wet compounds, but it will dry up before the end of this race. It'll dry up pretty shortly. Remember, it's a 60-minute race. And Alexander Midson around 1.2 seconds away from Thomas Buter, who is your race leader, unbelievably. So Thomas Buter didn't have the pace in qualifying, but he's definitely got it here. Lucas Rajinski is into the pit lane. Not sure what has happened to Lucas Rajinski there. So a real shame for him. Here we go, Matthew Wells, Rock Stojnek, Upper Rouge. Oh, and he takes it a little bit deep there. Matthew Wells got the better exit. Here comes Nicholas Duncan on Mato Gubro. Down the Kemmel Straight we go. And Nicholas Duncan in the Lexus is overtaken by the Ferrari of Marek Odolos. Daryl Bean trying that recovery drive. Macau Hotch as well with the two AMGs in the background. That is Robert Rockford and Ivan Stefanov. Daniel Krupa is still going as well. Rock Stojnek is practically pushing Matthew Wells through the corner with no name. Oh, he got a better exit there, did the Lexus. And that is Dennis Funke out of nowhere. Sorry, no, that's Rock Stojnek up the inside of the McLaren. Matthew Wells is holding on. Rock Stojnek is drifting in the rain. He's rounding into the wall. And was there significant space left there? Stephen Martin is through. He's got Dennis Funke, the pole sitter, right behind him. It is pouring it down and the drivers are struggling here. What a race in the rain here in Belgium. Here comes Dennis Funke. Remember, he started on pole position. He's right on the tail of Matthew Wells. As it pours down with rain, you can see the puddles on the track. Wheel to wheel go Matthew Wells and Dennis Funke. But it is Dennis that just gets his nose ahead. Back comes the McLaren of Matthew. Through Blanchimont, he's holding on to that car. You can see it trying to kick out. Dennis having to settle back in for P2 as we go in towards the bus stop chicane. And what about Stephen Martin? He didn't even have to pay for his ticket. He's got a front row seat for free. Here comes Rock Stojnek into the bus stop chicane. Marek Odolos. Then Nicholas Duncan. The drivers very nicely grouped and having battles of their own all over this circuit. Thomas Buter is still the race leader. Ryan Clemenson and Alexander Midson. Ryan Clemenson now up to P2. Lucas Rajinski trying to make them overtakes after getting into the pit lane. It's a long, long race. So Matthew Wells giving himself around a second of a gap to Dennis behind. Oh, that's the Brazilian livery of Stephen Martin that's off the track. And I tell you, he did very, very well to hold on to that. But he is going to get overtaken by Rock Stojnek and maybe even Marek. No, Stephen Martin's actually stayed in front of Rock. And he comes out not far behind Dennis here, does Stephen. Ryan Clemenson All over Thomas Buter now, through Blanchimont and up towards the bus stop chicane. This could be the overtake Ryan Clemenson's been waiting for in that Peugeot hypercar. He'll go later on the brakes. He's putting on the pressure now, and he does put on the pressure, and Thomas Buter is defending. He goes deep again, and through goes Ryan Clemenson, back onto the throttle and into the race lead after 10 minutes of racing here in Belgium. Ryan Clemenson is back to being where he likes to be. MB, I don't think driver penalties are always removed, but I'm just trying to get used to it, and I don't know if they're legit or not. And I'm just trying to give everyone a little bit of leeway, I think. So Thomas Buter into the slipstream of Ryan Clemenson to stay with him as long as possible. A little snap there. And we can see that Darrell Bean, still it is raining. Remember, the rain will stop, and it'll be interesting to see what the drivers do. There's already been a couple of drivers leave, which is surprising. And Daniel Krupa carries on, fair play to him. And Mato Gubro just coming through there at 50-60 miles an hour. And then down in towards turn at 10 from Mato Gubro, as he drops it down to around 40 miles per hour, although it doesn't look like it. That's what he's travelling at, back up to 50. It's really deceiving. There goes Lucas Rajinski, sorry, on a Rock Stojnek, who's into the pit lane. And Ryan Clemenson is back behind Thomas Buter. He must have lost the car in the rain, and he's now 3 seconds behind. It's very much a case of the rabbit and the tortoise, and I think Thomas Buter here is the tortoise, and he's just consistently staying ahead and in the lead of this Grand Prix. And that is Nicholas Duncan on Darrell Bean. Sorry, they're both into the pit lane. Here comes Darrell Bean into his slot to get that pit stop over and done with. Yeah, a few of them are in. Rock Stojnek, Marek Odelos, Stephen Martin. After that mistake, he is still on for a podium in them GT3 cars. Ryan Clemenson trying to catch up to Thomas again in that Porsche, the Peugeot, and then the Toyota. Lucas Rajinski's got a long way to go, but he's still going to carry on because anything can happen. Yeah, Bob Stobbit and Jonathan Curran have both left, so they are out of the race. MB, they just doesn't seem to be as much interest in the hypercars. It's always the GT3 cars, and then the hypercars, they had like 8 drivers sign up, whereas in the GT3 cars had 23, but then only 16 GT3 cars turned up and only 4 hypercars. So Thomas Buter has been overtaken by Ryan Clemenson once again. I mean, to be honest, the attendance is getting better and better every single week, so I am looking forward to when we do start getting like full grids. The only issue is that people take a seat and then it's really hard to know if they're going to turn up or not. Alexander Midton is into the pit lane. Lucas Rajinski will go through, and he's now in front of the Norwegian driver. Thomas Buter now 2 seconds behind Ryan Clemenson as he dances in the rain. Talking of dancing, Mr. Funky in the Lexus, tracking down Matthew Wells. He's around a second behind him as they both go up Rouge and down the Kemmel Straight. Yeah, literally, MB. it's really difficult with LMU and Assetto Corsa. The only problem is Assetto Corsa costs me £12 every time we do the race, and Assetto Corsa costs me about £1. Le Mans costs me about £1. The price difference in the servers are insane. Assetto Corsa is like 10 times more, no, more than 10 times more expensive than Le Mans. So the traffic getting in front of Matthew Wells and Dennis Funkit, Lucas Rudzinski there. The gap now 6/10 as Dennis Funkit goes drifting around there. And here comes the hypercar. He will make light work, and that is Matthew Wells. Oh, what's happened to Matthew Wells? Oh, he's come back. Oh, he's still. I think he lagged out there, and the rain is still absolutely battering it down here. It was probably worse than it ever was. Dennis Funkit, right on the tail of Matthew Wells. What about Daryl Bean on Ivan Stefanov? Here comes the Lexus on the back of that black Porsche. Out of the final corner, he got a great exit into the slipstream, moves to the left-hand side. The sun is starting to show, especially for Daryl Bean, as they have a sprint race down in towards La Source at turn 1. The Lexus will go later, and into P8 goes Daryl Bean. Nothing Ivan Stefanov could do about that one. The Porsche driver down into P9. Tim Schapp is into the pit lane. Daniel Krupa is carrying on. Mato Gubro in the Mercedes is still continuing. Matthew Wells is the leader of the GT3s. Ryan Clemenson is the leader of the hypercars. Lucas Rudzinski still going. He knows the points difference that this will make. And there goes Dennis Funkit. He's just lapping Mato Gubro there. Sorry, Daniel Krupa. Here comes Macau Hotch. And that is Alexander Midson just in front. Yeah, I reckon so, mate. I don't know, but the problem is, like, say people don't turn up to a Le Mans race. I'm like, right, okay, fair enough. It's new, we're trying to get a grid sorted, it is what it is. But if somebody don't turn up to an Assetto Corsa race, it just costs so much money, so it's a nightmare. And I'm thinking, do I want to keep spending nearly 15 quid every 2 weeks for a race when, you know what I mean, it's really difficult. We had like 40 free drivers sign up, and not even half of them turn up. It's mad. That is Dennis Funkit and Stephen Martin that's in front of Matthew Wells. It doesn't look like he's in front of them. Yeah, he's just lagging a little bit here, Matthew. He is still in the lead of the GT3 cars. And I think Matthew Wells was onto the grass. He is definitely lagging. Look, it's like he's stopped in the corner. There he is. He's back. So Marek and Stephen, these are quite close here. Stephen Martin and Dennis Funkit. And Ryan Clemenson 12 seconds clear. Remember, Alexander Midson has pitted. It is a decent battle between him and Ryan Clemenson for the lead when Ryan does come into the pit lane. Is the rain stopping? It's not. You can see it's still hammering it down. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. Everybody, yeah, a few people had stuff to do, but people let us know, do you know what I mean? But we had 43 people sign up on SimGrid. And so obviously I bought a server for 40 or 39 people. And then, like, 16 turned up. So it was just like, I don't even know if 16 turned up. So it's like... It's hard to settle course because it's so expensive to run. It's like if it doesn't work out, it's not really worth it. Do you know what I mean? Because of how expensive it is. It costs so much money to run an Assetto Corsa league that if you're not going to get the numbers and the drivers turning up, it's pretty much not worth doing. Whereas in like F1's free and Le Mans is like £1 a race, which is absolutely fine. But there's also a lot of interest in Le Mans. In fact, there was less drivers on Le Mans by a mile that signed up than Assetto Corsa. The more drivers that showed up to the race, it's weird. Like Assetto Corsa had 43 sign up, Le Mans had 31. So Stephen Martin chasing down Dennis Funkit, but I also understand it was Good Friday, it was bank holiday, so I know that a lot of people would have just not showed up. Yeah, yeah. He did just bottle it. So, I don't know what happened to him. Matthew Wells. Yeah, he's in the pit lane. He was leading as well. So, not sure what's happened there. So, Dennis Funkit leading by 1.9 to Stephen Martin. Ryan Clemenson is 18 seconds clear of Thomas Buter. Lucas Rajinski still going on, and Alexander Midson is into the gravel, and he has lost it, and he is beached. Alexander Midson trying to get out that soggy gravel. So, not great for the Norwegian. Stephen Martin still leading Marek Odlas, who just gets overtaken by Lucas Rajinski. No, it's Thomas Buter. I do apologise. Yeah, I'm hoping once Le Mans comes to console, I'm hoping we never have to touch Assetto Corsa again. I'm hoping Le Mans, because it's just so cheap to run and the broadcasting is so much better, like miles better than even F1 and Assetto Corsa and everything. Le Mans' broadcast system is amazing. So I'm hoping when it does come to console, we can just scrap Assetto Corsa and do Le Mans console, Le Mans PC, and that is it with F1. So Thomas Buter. And that is Ryan Clemenson on his way into the pit lane. He's just trickling in. And Thomas Buter now leads again. What happened to Ryan Clemenson? We know them tyres fall off very quickly in them hypercars. Here comes Daniel Krupa on Mato Gubro, the Mercedes, and the Ferrari out of curb of Paul Frere. Here comes the Ferrari around the outside of the AMG. And Daniel Krupa is up to P9. Can Mato Gubro respond as we come through Blanchimont? The AMG driver just tinkering along as we go down in towards the bus stop chicane. But that was a fantastic move around the outside from Daniel Krupa. Oh, I love Assetto Corsa. I think the graphics are amazing, and I think the cars are so good to drive. The only issue I have is the broadcasting's awful. The way you navigate through the drive. Oh, Daniel Krupa, after that overtakes, does a little 360 to showcase his skills to Mato Gubro. And back onto the throttle, and through goes Matthew Wells, I think, as well. He did. Yeah, the way you cycle through P1, P2, P3, it doesn't do it like that, which is also annoying. And then also the price just kills it. That's why you don't really see many really good Assetto Corsa leagues, because of the pricing. But the game is so good and people are really interested in it, because there's such a high demand with a short supply for Assetto Corsa. And I wouldn't even mind paying the money for it. I would not mind at all. If we could fill a grid every week and people were enjoying it, I don't mind paying the money at all. So, but when Le Mans comes to console, yeah, I do think it will kill Assetto Corsa. Unless they change the pricing or do some updates on it. But Assetto Corsa's been out a long time now as well. Daniel Krupa catching back up to Mato Gubro after that showcase of skills out of La Source. He comes around Pujon out of turn 11 down in towards turn 12. Is he going to go for the move up the inside? You're absolutely right, he is. And the Ferrari once again going side by side with the AMG, but the Mercedes just holding on this time around. The rain is still continuing to fall here in Belgium, but Daniel Krupa is back through. Can Mato Gubro respond? As we go in towards Kerber Paul Frere, he can, and Daniel Krupa is into P9 for the second time. Stephen Martin, 3 seconds behind Dennis Funke. Ryan Clemenson is around again, and he is struggling as he comes up a Rouge. And that hypercar driver not liking these conditions. Lucas Rajinski now into P2. Alexander Midson has got a long way to go as he's into the gravel. He's still in the gravel. Is he in the same bit of gravel? Wow. All of that time, Alexander Midson has been waiting to get out of the gravel. That is amazing. Look at that. Oh, he's got no wheel. He's got no wheel. He's trying to get back to the pit lane. Oh, come on. I really want him to get back now. Come on, come on. So Alexander Midson has got no back wheel on that hypercar. And he's going to try and get back to the pit lane so he can finish this race. There we go. He's back on track and he might be able to creep to the pit. Yes, he's got 3 wheels, but the back left is missing. And the Norwegian driver is now going to try and creep to the pit lane, but he's got a long way to go as Dennis Funky comes through. And look at this little battle as well. And oh, that's the BMW smashes into him. Wow. That is Stephen Martin that goes crashing into Alexander Midson. The hypercar was trying to get back to the pit lane. Stephen Martin has demolished that M4. What a crash here in Belgium. So, yes, Alexander Midson, I think he's still going to be trying to get to the pit lane. Yeah, he's still in the gravel, so we will have to just flag him. There is a yellow flag waving. I don't know what all these buttons do, to be honest. Right, we'll jump on board with Robert Rockford, who's chasing down Stephen Martin. Yeah, Senjo, I appreciate the the determination to get back to the pit lane. But yeah, Jesus. I know you tried to stay off the track. You're all good. Wow. So Lucas Buter still leading. It was unlucky timing, you're right, it was. But unlucky for Stephen Martin anyway. So the drivers continuing to race here. Ryan Clemenson a long way from home. Oh, Ryan Clemenson is off the track again. Wait, has he got a missing wheel? There's no way that two of the hypercars, two of the favourites, have got a missing wheel here. There's just no way. So this is not good for Ryan Clemenson. Yeah, rain is hard. I thought it would have stopped by now, to be honest. It is starting to stop. Marek Odelos up to P2. He's probably thinking, how have I ended up here? But what a guy. What a car, that guy. And Mikhail Hodge. A lot of these drivers representing liveries. And the pause of Robert Rockford up to P4. Thomas Buter on his debut in the hypercar is going to be looking at a race win, but we do have 30 minutes left and Lukasz Ruzynski is only a minute behind. Imagine if he's able to catch up. Here comes Daniel Krupa, Stephen Martin in the pit lane. So Tim Sharp and Matthew Wells still continuing to carry on. You know, points go down to P15, so any points is going to be really valuable. Yeah, that's true, MB, that's true. So Dennis Funky leading by quite a long way now to Marek and Macau. There's 4 seconds between these two. Robert Rockford in the Porsche, doing a good job, and the gaps have started to open up a little bit, which we were expecting to see. It's only Macau on the back of Marek that is the closest drivers on track. Lukasz Ruzynski still a minute behind Thomas Buter. Dennis Funky is so far clear of anybody. Marek around 46 seconds behind Dennis as he goes into the gravel, and that might bring Macau Hodge into this race a little bit more. So 2.7 is the gap. It's been definitely an interesting race. Oh Jesus, I didn't mean to do that. I'm hoping the audio is good because the last stream the audio wasn't very good for Le Mans. But we've still got a good race on our hands between the Ford Mustang and the Ferrari in front. But I just want to say, guys, that I just need to edit this. We've got some really big events coming up. We've got some racing here at the moment, but there's a bit of a gap. And that Ford Mustang is catching up, you know. Like, he's getting closer and closer. He's only 6/10 behind now, Mikhail Hodge, on the back of Marek. So here comes Mikhail in that Mustang, and the Ferraris run wide. So is the Mustang, who's got a better exit out of the bus stop chicane down towards La Source at turn 1. And he's not going to get him on this occasion as we go in towards turn 1. But I wanted to say, guys, we've got some huge stuff coming up. Back onto the gravel again for the Ferrari. And the Mustang into the slipstream as we go towards Eau Rouge. They will go up the hill. This is going to be so important now between the drivers who can keep it on track. That rain has stopped. The Ferrari is slightly over the apex. Here comes the Mustang, but the Ferrari got a bit of a helping hand as he took the shortcut route as we go in towards Les Combes at turn 3. Sorry, I don't think that is turn 3. Yes, we got some big things, guys. So I'm just at the minute organising the podcast. So the podcast will start with episode 1. It will start because I was debating whether to start it from episode 3, as we've already done one podcast with Patty Pat and one cast with oh, there up the inside goes the Mustang. The Ferrari made a mistake through turn 10 at Brussels, and the Mustang took his opportunity with both hands. A fantastic move up the inside. That is how it's done. But what about Stephen Martin as well? And through goes Stephen on Daniel Krupa. The M4 is through on the Ferrari as we go towards Eau Rouge. Lucas Rajinski only 53 seconds behind the leader now. Yeah, so we already did 2 episodes. One with Patty Pat and one with TikTok Verstappen, Andy Moore from TikTok. The Patty Pat one, I saved the broadcast. I never saved the broadcast with TikTok Verstappen, and I'm still gutted about it, as there was some good content in there. But when I did the podcast, I was streaming from a laptop. It was buffering, it was laggy, and yeah, it just didn't work for us. So we're going to go back and do it again. First episode is going to be Wright and Fanfulness. First episode, the 2 championship contenders from Realistic this season. We're going to interview them, we're going to talk to them, we're going to chat to them. Episode 2, I've got a big name lined up for you guys. A big name in the sim racing scene. A controversial name. A controversial figure. Some like, some don't like, but everyone would have heard of him. Anyway, episode 2, and then episode 3 is another F7 in-house podcast. So we've got some good episodes coming up. That is getting going shortly. Assetto Corsa is still progressing. I've kicked all the drivers that haven't come to any races. Hopefully we can get the drivers in that are going to show up. Once we get a comfortable grid, then we've got the UEC, the Ultimate Endurance Championship, that we've been really working hard on, And I tell you who else has been working hard on it, Jonathan Curran from MSC. Jesus, man, he's been putting some time into that. Le Mans is continuing to evolve, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. So massive shout out to that. And now here comes Rock Stojnek on Robert Rockford down in towards Les Combs. Is he going to get through? So we've got the podcast coming, Assetto Corsa, Le Mans is still growing, and F1. F1 is our bread and butter. F1 is where it all started. F1 is where it will all end. It will always be F1. Sunday 40s. I'm looking at a 5th, but it cannot be a Sunday. I always said I wouldn't do another day of racing other than a Sunday on the weekend. Here we are. And then we've got F2 that now runs directly before F1 on a Wednesday for realistic. Everything you could imagine, every bit of your racing journey is here at F7. F2, F1 realistic, Formula 1, Tier 1, 2, 3 and 4, Assetto Corsa, Le Mans Ultimate, podcasts, you name it, we're going to do it. So, but it wouldn't be possible without you guys. Without every single driver that supports us, every single driver that shows up and races, every single driver that chooses us to be their sim racing journey home, and every driver that trusts us to give them the show that they want to put on. So thank you to you guys. There is a hypercar coming up. Thomas Ronha, hey. Hypercar of... Who is that? Is that Thomas Buter? It is, and he is through, and so is Matto Gubro on Daniel Krupa. The Mercedes is through. And then you've got Robert Rockford, who has been overtaken by Rock Stojnek. 18 minutes to go. Here comes Daniel Krupa back at the Mercedes up the inside. Up the inside of Puhon. That was magnificent from Daniel Krupa. Matto Gubro runs wide in that AMG again. Rock Stojnek has taken the world by storm, and Robert Rockford cannot keep up with it. The rain has stopped. The drivers are still on the wet compound tyres. Lucas Ryczynski is 46 seconds behind Thomas Buter with 18 minutes to go. He was over 1 minute and 10 seconds behind. Who knows what can happen? Thomas Ronhart, I would love to do a broadcast with Thomas Ronhart, but I need somebody alongside me with the podcast, because last time it was really difficult to do the podcast but then gather all the information, all the clips and all that sort of stuff. It was really difficult to do that last time, and I just didn't have the time to filter through. Like when we did Patty Pat, I did not have the time to go through, gather all the clips, all his content, his arguments, his interesting stuff, who he's had problems with, his best races, his best streams, his highlights, and gather it all up into clips to put on the podcasts and information to ask him. And it was the same with TikTok Verstappen. I just didn't have that information. This time I'm going to get somebody in to gather intel and information on our guests that I will then ask them and bring up on stream, so that I'm not just asking them generic questions. So Daniel Krupa is in front of Matto Gubro. Tim Shapp is still going, you know, in P13. That is still good points on the board for him. 42 seconds between Thomas Buter. Thomas Buter is loving life here, as he's got two big names out of Ryan Clemenson and Alexander Midson. Here comes Robert Rockford on Marek, who's into the pit lane. Is he going for dry tyres with 15 minutes to go? Yeah, I think we'll have some clips for a lot of the in-house ones. It's just gathering them. It's having the time to go through and gather the clips. But not just the clips, like information. Like, say if you're interviewing, say, Thomas Ronha, for example. You want to be able to ask him a question like, what happened in Abu Dhabi 2012 or something like that, because he had a big crash with Jano Otmir or something like that. We want to be able to have that information to ask and to delve into and ask the questions that people want to know the answer to. And last time I didn't do that, and I should have done that. But also I need to build overlays for the stream that look good as well. As I've still got the 8-minute voice note Patty sent me after that podcast, calling everything shit. Oh, sorry, excuse my French, I do apologise, we don't swear in here. So, the gaps, Robert Rockford now 4 seconds behind Rok Stojnek. It's been a pretty decent race all round. Probably not, Salute. Probably not. So, 3 seconds. Robert Rockford to Rok Stojnek. And look at that. The sunshine is back out. And look at that. That is Lukas Richinski that he's through. He's only 36 seconds behind Thomas Buter with 12.5 minutes to go. This is getting very interesting indeed. Dennis Funky, 31 seconds clear. He is absolutely phenomenal, is the Lexus driver. Dennis Funky has just been on another level when it comes to LMU GT3. We know that Reese was close to him last time. Rockford still 3.4 behind. Daniel Krupa, Tim Schaap. Tim Schaap still going. Matthew Wells still going as well. And respect, I take my hat off to any driver that continues to race even when it's not going their way. So I do like it. 34 seconds for Lukas Rajinski. Does anybody know how I would record the race on my PC? Like record this whole screen so that I can upload it in like high definition afterwards. Would I just press start recording? Oh. Oh, you can start recording on the Streamlabs. Does that record the game? What's going on, Kev? How are we doing? So here comes Stephen Martin on Ivan Stefanov. They're both into the pit lane. Ivan Stefanov is on his way back out. And Mato Gubro just coming through Kerber Paul Frere. So he's quite a bit behind. He might be able to catch up to Stephen Martin, who's currently in the pit lane at the moment. Now he's on his way back out. So Mato Gubro, there we go. Stephen Martin, yeah, he is going to come out in front. Ivan Stefanov, Robert Rockford, 29 seconds for Lukas Rajinski. He is flying now on Thomas Buter. Thomas Buter's done a splendid job. You know what? And if people say, well, he wasn't as quick as the others, but he was consistent. And that is what wins you races. Consistency is key. As he goes up a Rouge, others made mistakes. He never did. And what a drive this has been from Thomas Buter. He should be extremely proud of the way he's driven here. Oh. What's going on? So here comes Thomas Buter. Lukas Rajinski only 26 seconds behind. Oh, and that is Matthew Wells that is up the inside of Daniel Krupa. And that was Stephen Martin that was overtaken then by the hypercar. So a lot of the drivers now going for their medium compounds. Robert Rockford isn't though. He has got a 7-second gap to... Sorry, no, he's like a minute in front of Daryl Bean. There's no wonder he's not pitted. Wow. Marek is through. Robert Rockford, Marel, Daryl Bean is in the pit lane with 6.5 minutes to go. Lukas Rajinski is only 24 seconds behind Thomas Buter with 6 minutes to go. This is incredible. Oh no! Just when we thought he was starting to catch up, he makes a mistake like that. Lukas Rajinski has thrown away any slim chances he had at winning this Grand Prix. Dennis Funky 40 seconds behind, in front of Macau Hotch in P2. It's been one of the best drives I've ever seen in a GT3 car. Or should I say one of the most dominant I've ever seen. Here comes Stephen Martin on Ivan Stefanov. Here we go. The M4 will go down the inside towards turn 10. Will he go later on the brakes? No, Ivan Stefanov defends, leaves him the space. Through goes Stephen Martin with them South American colours of Brazil. As Stephen Martin moves up to P7, and they are valuable points as Ivan Stefanov is demoted to P8. So that is it. And Lukas Rajinski, he's flying, you know. It's a real shame he's not been able to catch up to Thomas Buter, but what a drive for Thomas Buter. We're talking about consistency. My goodness me, Matthew Wells has just nearly taken out the race leader with 4 minutes to go in this race. I cannot believe I've just seen Thomas Buter get away with that. Reflexes of a cat. That was incredible from Thomas Buter, and very lucky that Lukas Rajinski, with only 27 seconds behind now, he is catching up, and again he's round. It's the commentator's curse. Every time we go on board with him, he loses it. Still wet weather is wild. I know, mad, isn't it? Well, everybody's on mediums bar in the front too. We had to have one wet race, I suppose. Gutted that the broadcasting didn't work though. So 3.5 minutes to go. It's been an exceptional race. It really has. So Dennis Funkit, 43 seconds clear. Through goes the hypercar of Lukas Rajinski. I tell you what, I'm looking at the timing. I'm looking at how far Lukas Rajinski is behind. I think that he would have been able to catch up to Thomas Buter here had he not have spun twice. I really do. I'm very lucky he didn't get taken out though by Matthew Wells. So Thomas Buter, who was the slowest of the qualifiers in the hypercar, is going to win the race. It is literally the definition of the tortoise and the hare. And I do not mean that with any disrespect, Thomas. I genuinely just mean you've took your time, you've been consistent, you've not made mistakes, and that's what's won you the race. It wasn't even about pure pace, and I love that. So, if you want to see what the gaps look like between it, that's what it looks like at the moment. All the gaps. With 1 minute and 40 to go. This is amazing, this broadcasting though. You can do tower, green flag, red flag, checkered flag, full course yellow, safety car, names, team names, intervals, grid progress, flag status, race control message, driver ID panel, event panel, information, driver ID stats, calendar. It's amazing. That's all just through LMU's broadcasting. It's phenomenal. So, Rokstojnek is on for a podium for the GT3s. 40 seconds to go. Thomas Buter. This will be his last lap. What a drive. He's 22 seconds in front of Lucas, and Lucas has spun twice in the last 5 minutes. I genuinely believe he would have caught up to Thomas, but that's where the consistency comes in. Stephen Martin in P7 in the GT3 cars. Tim Schaap comes through. I take my hat off to Daniel Krupa and Matthew Wells for continuing on to get them points on the board. They could be valuable. And here comes Thomas Buter. That is it. The race over now. And Thomas Buter, 21 seconds clear of Lucas Rajinski, coming through Blanchemont and down in towards the bus stop chicane. And the man on his debut in the Porsche hypercar is going to come into the pit lane. Thomas Buter is on his way into the pits. What is going on? Thomas Buter is going to come through an SG. What does that mean? Here comes Lucas Rajinski. Thomas Buter is down towards the line. And Lucas Rajinski is going to win. Lucas Rajinski wins. What has just happened? Thomas Buter went into the pit lane. Lucas Rajinski won. Dennis Funky is going to come in towards the bus stop chicane. Through the final 2 corners and to the checkered flag. Dennis Funky once again purely dominant here in Belgium. And for the Grand Prix here in Spa-Francorchamps, it is Dennis Funky that wins. Mikhail Hodge is going to take a well-deserved P2. And Rok Stojnek on the podium. What does that mean? What does that mean, Ryan? So he has now finished. Thomas Buter, Dennis Funky, and Mikhail Hodge into the bus stop chicane. 100-second stop and go. Wow. Oh, for not pitting. That is mad. Mikhail Hodge comes through and takes a podium, and so does Rok Stojnek. Robert Rockford is going to come through to take P4 in the GT3s. What a magnificent race we have just seen. A brilliant Grand Prix and a well-deserved from all that was involved. Marek comes through in P5. Daryl Bean is going to take P6. Yeah, poor Thomas, I know. I really thought he was going to win that as well. A real shame. And what is going on here? That is Daryl Bean on the last lap, and it looks like he might have a puncture. He has got a puncture. So Daryl Bean is going to limp to the line. Stephen Martin was over a lap behind, so he's not going to be able to catch him. So he's in the clear here, Daryl Bean. And it's going to be just enough to get him through. So Daryl Bean creeps through with that puncture. Struggling to get the car closed. Wow, look at that. Oh my God. He is really struggling to turn that Lexus. And it's Lewis Hamilton in Silverstone all over again. And Daryl Bean will come through to take P6. So that is it. The drivers are finished. A great race. Ivan Stefanov and Matthew Wells will be the final 2 drivers to cross the line. It was bad luck. Yeah, the crash, Kev, with the BMW was crazy, weren't it? I know. Still a great race, though. A really enjoyable one. So Matthew Wells and Tim Daniel Krupa. A good race. So there we have it. The race is over. Well done to Lucas Rajinski, who wins the hypercar, and well done to Dennis Funkit, who wins the GT3. Congratulations to Thomas Buter, who gets a podium in the hypercar, and congratulations to Mikhail Hoch and Rok Stojnek, who get a podium in the GT3. That is it for another 2 weeks. Remember, Le Mans Multiclass is coming to weekly races. You don't have to wait 14 days now. Every time you want to see a race or every time you want to compete in a race, it will be weekly on a Monday at 7 p.m. every single Monday. Make sure you're a part of it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.